Hello everybody and welcome back to the Brightworks, where we're taking another look at Hellas Base, and I won't lie, I'm absolutely addicted to this map. But real quickly, before we start off today's cast, I wanted to show you something that was brought to my attention that I think is relatively important. So, going into our settings here, I know this is a bit of a weird technical niche thing, but if you go into your settings, you go into your graphics, you click on the advanced setting and you click on fog, there's this little slider and you can actually turn this down, and as you can see, it makes this map look a whole lot better. Yeah, it clears a lot of it up, it kind of gets rid of that nasty fog. Yeah, I think I like that quite a bit. Anywho, spawning in the mid lane of our blue team as our blue team commander, an Armada commander that goes by the name of Dark Fury. Dark Fury, I'm sure, well, a name like that, certain to be dogged on at least a little while. Thank you, thank you. Our red team leader, Cortex commander here, goes by the name of Seabisk, or Seabisk, maybe Seabiscuit. Anywho, Seabisk here, the red team commander, 26 true skill, not even a silver tail on those chevrons, a brand new command, well, I shouldn't say brand new, a little bit of time under their belt, but definitely still figuring things out. You haven't really mastered the game until you've got about 1,000,000 silver chevrons or a gold star, put a hat on your head with one of those Viking helmets, so to speak. There's a lot of fun things that you can do when you get really good at this game. Anywho, looks like the blue team is going to go ahead and get some transports. That's nothing out of the ordinary here. Yep, paying for transports here with a couple of wind turbines. Always good to see. Handing those transport out's very important because on this map, there's a lot to claim. So you can see there's these high ground rises right here. If I adjust the camera, you can see a better angle. These are raised up right now. So when they're raised up over here, obviously they, well, they don't change their height, but while they're raised, it means that they're difficult to capture. Certainly boats might try, maybe wedging themselves in here to try and build up on top of there. All said and done though, I think the best course of action is going to be to fly a commander or a constructor or something like that over here and set up a bunch of defenses, set up a bunch of turrets, set up a bunch of anti-air, all that good stuff to try and lock that down. Now in the middle of the map, we have a bunch of metal extractors, and this is very similar to Supremacy, as a lot of people have rightly pointed out. This map is very reminiscent of All That Glitters and Supremacy. Frankly, I don't see the resemblance to All That Glitters. More so, I see the resemblance to Sector 318C. I would probably say that that's a more akin resemblance here. We already have the red planet plant, which I believe go by the name of Tentacle Plant in Sector 318C, but that is a completely different planet. By this point, they didn't really have a name for him, so they just called him Red Planet Plant. I suppose the coloration is where people get the distinction that this is similar in some ways to All That Glitters, but frankly, yeah, I think Sector 318C is probably a better fit for it. I notice also there's a pawn back here. This is one of those things that I haven't seen a whole lot of, but as a commander, taking use of this pawn to build a bunch of title generators. I guess we've seen it here and there, but it's one of those things that at least I hadn't thought about. It's one of those things that I always neglect on Supremacy because I never play that pawn start spot. I usually always play the front or the back. That's my preferred position. Mid laning, yeah, you gotta be a little bit courageous to be a mid laner. You've either got to contribute units on the front, or you've got to get together some sort of an eco build that's relatively light so that you can get those units out in time while not being, you know, a significant hindrance to your team. It's tricky. It's definitely very tricky. Be like Mike getting a frigate out here, playing as an Armada commander in the water. It's a bold decision. Not one I'm entirely unsupportive of, but certainly a bold one. One of the things about the Armada boats is that they're relatively cheap, compared, of course, to Cortex. It means that you can get them out a little bit sooner, you can start doing damage with them, you start trading with them. But it also means that they're a little bit flimsier. Yeah, that actually rings true of just about everything in the Armada versus Cortex matchup. Grunts versus pawns. You have, I guess it would be thugs versus maces, all that sort of stuff. Relatively more expensive for Cortex, but also you get a little bit more HP in a lot of cases. There are some cases where you just pay more as Cortex, but you don't get any significant benefit out of it, which is pretty funny. That Cortex inefficiency, they're just welding random armor plates on top of whatever they need to in order to try and get it, well, you know, relatively scrapped together anyways. Half robot going for some anti-air defenses up here. I think that's a great idea. We've got the fighters in the sky as well to make sure that no other transports come over in this direction. This is definitely a tough one to hold though. So I love that this map is diagonally balanced, right? We have sort of this diagonal line that bisects the entire map here. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, lends this map a special air of uniqueness. Oftentimes, well, especially for Isthmus, for example, we see the sort of perfectly mirrored diagonal, where this one is technically not perfectly mirrored. It reminds me of, for instance, that thermal shock map That one that you, one team spawns on the left-hand side, and one team spawns on the southern side. That's a similarly, pardon me, that's a similarly diagonal map. I really like it. I think it introduces some interesting interactions between commanders, especially the ones that are fighting along the really long axes, the outside routes that are much longer to fight around, versus the insides where essentially you get to the fighting immediately. Grunts managed to blast down single-handed, well, tri-handedly, a medium armored tank right there. Very nice, but more importantly means they get to squeak through here and do some metal extractor damage. So 2 mexes go down. Certainly well worth the cost of these 2 grunts. Nice connection right there from the Janus. This is a nice bit of micro right here. So we're forcing, oh, okay, the Janus only fired 1 missile. That was cheeky. Yeah, we were hoping that the Janus would fire both missiles and kill itself in its own AoE explosion. Actually, not what happened, as the Janus only fired 1 missile for whatever reason. Ended up meaning that the Janus will live and continue to march onto the front line here. And we do have a nice little LLT for us, set up quite rapidly here by Mythology. We're even going to set up some build power to keep everything alive. Not bad, not bad. Definitely reduces the APM cost of having to repair all this with res bots or something akin to that. Definitely also puts you out quite a lot of energy in the early game, though. Not that the Maroon Commander minds too much, my goodness. Yeah, I forgot just about how much metal you actually start with. 4.3s here, plus the 2 metal extractors which went down here, but at least for a little while we're pumping out a whole lot of metal right now. We also have another 4.3 here and a 4.3 here. My goodness, why aren't we shutting this down? This needs to be shut down right now by Sigmal. If we aren't shutting that down, then this is definitely a tremendous benefit to the Red Commander, the Maroon Commander. Some folks were calling this the Brown Commander. I always thought that was the Maroon Commander. Let me know. We have a colors discussion about once a month, maybe more. Usually pointless. Usually we don't really achieve all too much. We're going for a Mass Whistler composition in the backline here, which is a little bit interesting. I don't mind the Mass Whistlers nowadays, especially if these are, it's hard to tell. If this is with the added tweak units that makes these do a little bit more damage but lose the tracking, I don't mind it whatsoever. I think it's not, though. I think, yeah, it looks like these are tracking still. Hard to say because there's absolutely no micro on these Rocketeers or Shell Shockers over here for the Lavender Commander. Yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah, they're definitely tracking. Those missiles appear to be hitting their targets 100% of the time when they're not ramming directly into a wall over here. Mass Lasher, not as powerful as it once was. Certainly, there was a time when that build was damn near unstoppable. I want to say about, a month or so ago, maybe more than that, maybe 2 months now at this point. Commander goes down over there. That's a huge, huge trade right now for the Lavender and the Green Commander over on the right-hand side of the middle of the map. The Red Commander appears to have a domineering lead over the, southern side of the map. We've got the metal extractors locked down. We've got the Navy on the run. This is about the time where, as a Navy player, you have to start calling in favors, hoping that your air support can get you out of a jam right here. It takes 1 or 2 good engagements to get yourself back into this game from this point, and a whole lot of res submarines. And right now, effectively, all we've got right now are hopes and dreams for Be Like Mike. Seabesk doing a great job of, getting into the water and getting those boats pumped out lickety-split. This is a tough situation right here for the Red Commander too, because jumping too far forward and losing your whole navy, suddenly you've handed a tremendous amount of resources over to your enemy, and you're never sure if that actually equalizes things or whether that means that you're going to be far behind at that point. Mauser rolling out to the front lines too. Love to see it. Looks like Dark Fury has a well-practiced build. We do get the geothermal at this spot, so you get that nice energy benefit. That's one of those things that people that play Isthmus all the time will be familiar with, are these builds that take well advantage of having a geothermal to power everything, as opposed to usually when you would just have wind turbines, solar panels, all that sort of good stuff. Northern Sea, much more contested over here. We do have a torpedo launcher, keeping tabs on things in the water. VS Shell, trying to escape with their life here. The Orange Commander retreating into the water. Tried to come up and do a little bit of damage over here, but it looks like the Centurions will lock most of that down. Mauser now firing at some of the static defense that was over here. Lightning Turret did its good work, but it will now fall to ruin. Sigmal desperately needs to get this 4.3 up. This is so much metal per second right here that the Seafoam Green Commander is essentially neglecting. Okay, we do have plans to build it eventually, just not quite yet. There we go, that Constructor marching his way on over there. Bold little character, gonna try and do his very best. Mauser's actually caught pretty far forward here. Problem with Mausers is you effectively can't retreat them. You have to keep them pointed at the enemy 100% of the time, otherwise they aren't going to be able to do all too much. That being said, these medium tanks running right through 3 different armies are being shut down quite nicely. All right. A little bit of aggression and counter-aggression right here. I love to see it. The blue team pushing back isn't going to be enough, though, with that T2 transition to counteract the amount of eco that the red team was able to pull out of these 4.3 metal extractors on the front. That would have been a whopping 8 metal per second going back towards the red team command. Certainly enough, especially if we funnel it back towards our eco players. Looks like that's what we're going for in the backline, by the way. We have an air player, we have an eco player. Very similar to that Isthmus style. Certainly can appreciate that sort of comparison between Isthmus and... oh, forgetting the name. Hellas Basin. Very Nordic sounding name. Love it. Sneaky Dolphin. Sneaking his way across, trying desperately to do a little bit of damage here. And we really do need it. Yeah, all these metal extractors that are supposed to be under the control of the blue commander, absolutely not under the control of the blue commander. Definitely starting to hurt the economy right here. A bunch of fighters have been rallied over the anti-air out on the seas as well. Oh no, this is a nightmare. We are headed for oblivion here on the southern sea. All the red player has to do is keep up production, and eventually this is going to be well worth it. Oh, actually has managed to squeak out a cheeky T2 lab. This is bold. Bold because you don't get the benefits of T2 immediately, but as soon as you do start pumping out these more expensive but also quite a bit more powerful units, once they hit your composition, yeah, they're going to be able to do some serious damage. Right now, the powder blue commander nowhere near a T2 lab, still building T1 chaff, trying to get a couple of destroyers out, and there is good chance that these destroyers do well in a fight, but nowhere near the eco scaling that's about to happen as soon as T2 kicks off right now. This is looking fabulous for Seabisk and absolutely atrocious for Be Like Mike. Gonna need some serious reinforcements right here for the powder blue commander if we want to stay in this fight. For the time being, though, at the very least, keeping presence here means that we're not totally threatened by the offshore boats over on this side. It's kind of a implicit threat of violence, but not so much a physical one. Construction turret coming up pretty quick here. Gonna be quite good, repairing the commander, but also for reclaiming all of the wreckages lying in ruin. Not bad. This is still T1, though. I'm curious why we aren't pushing with more Mauser. It feels like that's a no-brainer move. You just go for about 10 Mauser and send them forward right now. Even handing them over to one of these commanders wouldn't be the worst idea. Maybe somebody who already has shell shockers would probably be essentially hotkeyed appropriately to utilize them. I would imagine, anyways. You know, this is a great pushing force, but there's no sustain in front of all this. There is a single bull right here, but it's not really where it needs to be. Ah, okay. Eventually it moves forward, but we're losing way more than we really should have here. I think eventually this T1 is going to go down, but there's no reason why these thugs should have ever caught these Mauser out. Taking 2 of them down, again, not the end of the world, and all this wreckage is just going to go back to the blue team. But still, if you want to absolutely optimize that, you got to put a couple of lightning tanks in front, just to make sure that any of that chaff that runs through is going to hit a barrier and be stopped on sight. Not to mention the Mauser shelling away at them have a really effective line of sight. Frigate steps a little too far forward there. Not the end of the world, but sucks to lose one of those. Gonna have to send the res subs to get that back up and running. It'd actually be quite nice to resurrect all of this. You can imagine resurrecting these torpedo launchers gives you a pretty solid understanding of the area on the southern side, gives you a little bit of vision and a little bit of static defense. Not bad whatsoever. Yep, submarine tearing apart the area over here. X-Drizzle X, the Tan commander, sent a single submarine, a single orca across the map to do some counter damage while trying to push out a T2 lab. Now we have virtually no eco. Do we have a single metal extractor? No, we must have more. Ah, there we go. Okay, yeah, Drizzle. Drizzle has a single commander left. No constructors, no anything like that, but still will manage to eventually get this lab up and running. My goodness. Eventually being the key word here. Resbot's making all the difference right now, funneling more and more and more metal back towards the Lavender Commander. The Lavender Commander, Pantsuripo. Well, I guess I kind of went French at the end of there, but I feel like, I mean, Pantsu is Japanese, right? I know in high school, somebody taught me that Watashi no Jinsu desu meant those are my genes, but I have no idea if that's true or not. Somebody, I'm sure, can correct me. Be like Mike. Meeting the wrath of the Red Army, and this is just confirmation right now for the Red Commander Seabisk that he has indeed won the naval side. Going to be more than happy with the fact that he went for that naval the naval T2 transition in order to effectively capitalize on having this. Oh, and immediately we already lose our powder blue commander. Yeah, well, you know what? Fair enough. Knocked out of the Navy, it's an unfortunate place to be. Not the end of the world, truly, but definitely burns. Gonna take a lot in order to get back into this. All right, so ecos are scaling. We do have an APHIS up and running. We're starting to get those energy converters up and online. That's always good to see. 2 minutes until eco is coming online, according to Sword Cake over here, who happens to be who we're looking at. Comparatively, just now finishing up the APHIS right here for Hexadecimal. So a little bit behind, not the end of the world, just a little bit slower with that Armada. Yeah, those slightly more metal dense Armada fusion reactors. I like to imagine the Cortex fusion reactors are quite unsafe to stand by. Yeah, they're definitely not the pinnacle of health and safety, but certainly, you know, in the name of progress, they certainly produce a whopping amount of power for an extremely cheap price. I forget the actual metal difference between them. It's like a couple hundred metal. It's noticeable, but it's not the end of the world by any means. Makes up the difference between the Cortex, the Cortex tax, as I like to call it. I think Hornet coined that term with me. Might have been somebody else, but anyway, someone else coined that term, but I like it quite a lot. The Cortex tax, that you just pay a little bit more for effectively the same unit. Here's the Despot though, firing away. Definitely a little bit better than the Armada one. It's got that heavy laser and that triple cannon. Very, very good battleship. Extremely powerful. Capable of shelling away on coastlines right here. As you can see, denying these metal extractors is huge, but obviously going to be a king of the seas as well. I'm curious what Seabisk is going to invest in here. It looks like we've got a seaplane gantry up and running. We've got some messenger boats coming up and running, and we've also got a fusion reactor coming up and running. Okay, so we're doing a little bit of everything. We've got fusions coming up, so a little bit of eco skilling. We've got a healthy looking sabotage force, the messenger boats, about to start shelling away. Really does look like we're headed towards the right direction right now. Cyan Commander has taken well control of the high seas over on the northern side, meaning that it's going to be a messenger transition here eventually too. We're a little bit slower on the T2 transition, but definitely going to be pretty interesting to see if we manage to do much damage with those messengers. I suppose you could probably target this base down. Yeah, you could probably target this one as well. Certainly could pop this geothermal and you could harass this shoreline over here. There's definitely plenty of opportunities, but it is a little bit tricky. One of the other things I was thinking about on this map, by the way, is how different each side plays. So effectively, if you spawn on the northern side, we do have Shivas pumped out of the lab by now at this point, by the way. If you play on the northern side, this sea lane is way easier to take, and it's way harder to hold. If you play on the, and then this northern sea is way harder to take, or way harder to hold, I should say. And then, you know, counterclockwise. So the northern sea is way easier to take if you're spawning on the southern side here. It's pretty interesting. It really is. It makes for a unique sort of a duel where both sides are effectively going to collapse regardless. And you've just got to do the best you can to hold on and survive. Big commander explosion right here on the front lines. Looks like those Tiger tanks have rolled on forward. Their twin Gauss cannons firing away those condensed matter projectiles directly into the face of the commander right here. It looks like that's Sigmal's commander. Maybe, might have been Valkyrie Protocol as well. Not entirely sure. You can take a look around. Nope, it was Sigmal's, Valkyrie Protocol's commander, out in the sea, building a bunch of tidal generators, harnessing that sweet tidal force. Quite a lot of spectator chat. I think there's a way to automatically enable this. Yeah, control click. There we go. Automatically clears drawings. Why didn't I think of this sooner? It's genius. Seaplane's doing a fabulous job right here. Gonna be blasting away some of that T1 chaff. Absolutely time that we see a transition away from the T1. We do have the T2 lab up and running. That's how these cormorants are coming out right here. The torpedo bombers for the Armada faction. Anglers, I believe, are the ones for the Cortex faction. Always trying to remember to brush up on my skills. Skills to pay the bills. Ooh, radar jammer ship could be a prime target. What are we going after? Nobody. Okay. Rare that we see the torpedo bombers whiff that badly, but I guess, yeah, when you're... when there's, you know, one by one, they're not going to do all too well. This is cheeky. So we've got some decoy commanders moving out here. We've got tumbleweeds to accompany them. About as good as you can get when you're, you know, fielding a T2 bot lab, and there's not a whole lot more you can do. The four decoy Armada commanders certainly have enough build power to capture things if we wanted to. Not sure what they're targeting specifically. Oh, they're gonna reclaim. Oh, interesting. Okay. So one of the things is they take very little energy to cloak. So you can see all 4 of these to keep cloaked more or less, about 700-ish metal. That's less than a single real commander remaining cloaked. What a funky little play. I always say that these decoy commanders are underutilized, but it is so funny to see them used in this way. Certainly you can pull off some cheeky moves. Yeah, there we go, the capture. The capture will happen super, super quick. It's build power related, so with 3 commanders it'll happen, well, 3 times as fast. They have the build power too. They're effectively glorified res bots. Sure. Yeah, why not? Take over a ship or 2. Obviously, the more of them that you have, the more effective they'll be at doing some stuff like moving across and capturing things, those cheeky plays, but also means we have a big ball of commanders, which is, yeah, a little bit weird. Now, from a hierarch perspective, we can see a little bit better what's going on here. The Shiva have collapsed through the bottom side of the middle of the map, and they're continuing to apply pressure, but I think we ignore this. Yeah, this is just a big old fortified area. Not really any strategic benefit for breaking through that when already a line has been established right here. You can push the enemy back on that front line, but really how much more value is that going to have as opposed to the Strummer, which is already sieging away at everything on the front. That'll eventually whittle it down anyways. Shiva should just keep on marching, and that's exactly what we see them doing. The Navy of the Cyan Commander is continuing to move into this field here to try and do a little bit of damage, but these Shiva are looking pretty close to the front lines here. Sorry, the back lines, really. It's the, well, it's the front liners, but it's the front liners back line, just to make things even more confusing. Scorpion turret's pretty good. Pretty good. Brings down 2 of them, I would say. Sumos here are going to work on bringing down the rest of them. Turtles as well, those amphibious tanks trying to contribute a little bit of firepower. Turtles fairly depressing. as far as expensive units that you pay a lot and get not very much out of, the Turtle is definitely one of them of all time. Okay, this is an interesting transition here. So we've gone into the Navy. Interestingly, we've gone into T1 Navy, so we're trying to use T1 Navy against T2. The tumbleweeds are the great equalizer of the seas. You can see even when they explode, they do a tremendous amount of damage, so extremely, extremely efficient to use those against basically anything out here. Torpedo bomber is also quite good, but there's tons of anti-air and fighters as well, so those will be sacrificed effectively anytime they're used. T2 submarines, quite a bit more resilient, but still relatively paper thin. They are effectively a pressurized tube deep underwater here. And no fighters in the sky right now for the Purple Commander. There we go, some of those high winds cleaning up those pesky bats, shooting them out of the skies, and flying directly into the anti-air forces right over here. Definitely tricky, yeah. And we're moving back one of the injured Shiva. Okay, nice. It's good move. Keeping those Shiva well occupied is, or well healed is important. Some torpedo launchers and whatnot coming up right now. We do have a killer army, Navy I should say. Despots, destroyers, all sorts of good stuff. Certainly good enough to start shelling away at the coast over here. A little surprised we aren't utilizing them like that, but maybe we're going for a capital ship. Indeed we are. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I spied it on the map right there. Yeah, definitely having a moment of appreciation for the Black Hydra, which has significantly increased its potential after receiving some serious buffs. You can see the capture, not necessarily the fastest thing known to mankind. Certainly a hilarious strategy when you manage to pull it off. Pardon me. Pantsuit Ripper trying desperately to shut down some of these Shiva with the cloak, D-gun combo, wombo combo. Not nearly enough energy in the bank right now to pull that off effectively, though. We're just barely producing enough power, but the energy converter slider has been set so low that we actually can't move our commander and power everything at the same time. We're also going for an anti-nuke here. Not a bad idea. We're already well covered, though, so it's questionable. Big Marauder run by, though. Massive Marauder run by. We have in total here 11 Marauders running on into the main production centers here of, well, the yellow and orange commander. I'd love to see a split. I feel like about half of these could probably turn left and go into this base. I don't think we have any vision of this, though. Let me go and select hexadecimal. No, we don't have any vision of this base over here. So unaware of the massive eco that's lurking just south of where those Marauders ran up to. But at the very least, shutting down this entire production center right here in orange is going to do a tremendous amount of damage. WTF are you, Gus Dong? Help out with red or red T. Just reading what I see in chat right here. Marauder blowing up some of the fusion reactors over here. Lovely, lovely stuff. They're going to go after some of the metal extractors over on this side as well. Surprise. Oh, no, never mind. I was going to say surprised to see a lack of pork, but there we go. About a dozen Scorpion turrets. Make that 7 Scorpion turrets. Geothermal goes down as well as a Cerberus. Surprised it actually didn't kill that. I would have imagined a Cerberus would have taken down a single Marauder, but maybe I'm overestimating the power of the Cerberus cannon. It looks imposing, but maybe not as powerful as I thought. Here's those destroyers finally firing away over here. Lovely, lovely stuff. We're similarly firing the destroyers over towards the Seafoam Green Commander's base. Not having that much of an effect, though. There's really only so much you can do. It's about time these missile boats start firing away at whatever they can, and I think we're going to have a fabulous time. A couple of Vanguards wouldn't be the end of the world here. I'm curious if maybe we could go for some of those. Only on double APHIS production. We're a little bit behind the curve for 25 minutes, and really we want to aim for 4 to 5 APHIS production. That's how you're going to really start pumping out those T3 units in enough mass that you're going to be able to send them to the front line somewhat willy-nilly. But I guess that's somewhat off-put by these Marauders, which are not quite done, tearing up the backline right now of the red team. Need to shut down that build power. Oh, one more shot. There we go. One more shot will echo through the build power of the pink player. And that's going to be all she wrote for, at the very least, the energy converters. If these Marauder are microed properly, we probably get the APHIS too. Yep, nicely done. About 3% per shot. Boom goes the APHIS. Beautiful play right there from Hexadecimal. Lovely, lovely stuff. Getting some value out of those Marauders, capitalizing on his teammates' advantage over on the northern seas, his overwhelming victory, and using that to further extend the reach of the blue team into the backline and devastating the economies of the red team. That's a tremendous play. Now, we do have some Shiva that walked underwater, essentially trying to do the same thing over here, but Shiva, quite a bit less impressive than the Marauder, in all honesty. Definitely a different kind of a unit, but they are reinforced at the very least by these offshore boats shelling away with heavy artillery rounds, going to try and rattle the cages of those Razorbacks just a little bit. They'll even bring one of them down. Starlight's quite nice here, actually, are going to contribute significantly, at least in shutting down some of these Buccaneers pushing forward here, these cruiser-class $1,000 ships. Very, very pricey, those Buccaneers, but they are a safeguard against any sort of submarine attack or anything like that, so it is good to have them. We have a bunch of gunships that were produced right here. Love to see that. That's going to be essentially for dealing with any future Marauder run-bys. Gunship's pretty good for cleaning those up. Marauder's just thin enough in the armor plating department that, yeah, a couple of gunships can really shoot them down fairly effectively. Not quite so thin, though, that it'll be quick. Definitely need enough. Sharpshooters to try and deal with the coastline. I don't hate that, per se. But yeah, I really feel like there's better options here. The Rattlesnake's up on the high ground, certainly one of them. Do we have a jammer up here? I'd love to see one. Looks like we will lose another player on the red team. Didn't see exactly who tapped out there. It looks like the... I want to say... What color is missing? I can't tell, but a player on the red team is tapped out at this point. QUAEF. I'm not going to try pronouncing that for fear of the demonetization button. We'll lose both of their aphises right now to the barragement of the offshore Black Hydra, now bombarding all of these coastline bases with a hellish fury. Missile ships firing high arcing shells up into the air and raining down barrage on top of the Orange Commander's base as well, making sure that that commander never feels comfortable building within a square mile of the coast ever again. This is the kind of assault that I'm expecting to see. And you know what? I've been so harsh on the Black Hydra, but after its tweaks, I think it has definitely found its place. Very, very expensive, but you actually get some serious value for what you pay for. Obviously not going to be a end-all, be-all perfect solution on every map, but certainly going to be a powerful one on a whole lot of them. There we go. We have another Black Hydra set up and running over here. Going to be heading out for the Red Commander, Sibisk. Hopefully this will manage to get some value, and how couldn't it? Geothermal, ripe for the blasting. We also have plenty of static defense over here for it to nibble on for a good long while. Plenty of open targets right here for a capital ship to make a good job of demolishing. Where are we targeting now? We're targeting the last remaining fusion reactor of the Orange Commander. Not a bad idea. Probably best to relocate those. Indeed, we have already. We've got a fusion reactor up and running over here. I'd love to see maybe reclaiming that if we can. We have a couple of construction turrets in range, so maybe reclaiming that at the very last second. Ooh, you gotta reclaim it quick. Oh no, he almost had it. Just barely did the Orange Commander not get it. That's so tough. You can tell the Orange Commander definitely tried their best. Looks like we lost whatever commander was in charge up here. Yeah. Hot pink. Hot pink to say the very least. So I don't think that was the first person to tap out here. Anywho. That capital ship has made its way across the map. Here we are. Missile boats have been extremely annoying as well, just firing away at whatever they can off the coast, but that capital ship certainly going to start striking fear deep into the heart of Sigmal, the powder green commander over here. This is where those vanguards come into play. I was talking about those earlier. Vanguard's very, very good for dealing with this sort of thing because they have such a tremendous range. The range on those is 1,325 capital ship range. I wonder what the range on this is. 2,550. So capital ship definitely outranges those, but say for instance the Despot here with the range of 950, you'd at the very least be able to fire back at. Usually the capital ship is going to stay next to all the other boats though, so good odds that your vanguards are going to be able to fire away at it. I don't know what the conversion ratio is of vanguards to capital ships. That's a number that is beyond me, but certainly somebody could run the numbers and figure out what an efficient turning point would be. Thor just being chilling over here, trying to keep it all together. I don't mind a Thor here, actually. It's kind of a strategic EMP missile launcher. You can imagine some of these boats get a little too close and the Thor can EMP them, come right up to the water and blast away at them. We do also have a pulsar up and running, so that's always lovely. What on earth are we targeting back here? This Black Hydra, I guess it's not dumb firing, it's just kind of picking targets however it would like. Ironically, the default targeting is pretty dumb. The manual targeting, which is usually a whole lot better, is what I refer to as dumb targeting. Or dumb firing. It's just kind of, we would like to obliterate that direction. Aye, aye, sir. Reducing that direction to glass and atoms. That's all it is. Black Hydras. Paving a way for the troops to move forward here. I'd love to see some landmine usage. I feel like that would be a really powerful move here too. You can imagine a whole bunch of heavy mines right along this coastline right here, connecting into this cavern area between these two hills. Certainly that would be one way to do quite a lot of work if they were, say, a bunch of Shiva or Marauder or anything like that running by over here. Orange Commander rapidly absorbing this entire northern section. You can see those Scorpion turrets. Now the Orange Commander's sole proprietary ownership. Metal extractors unclaimed here as well. I'd love to see a radar tower going down and then eventually our way into getting those 4.3s back up online. Obviously with a T2 metal extractor, you're going to be pulling 17 metal per second out, which is quite tremendous. Quite a lot of metal. I will say, liking the air wall right now for the pink commander quite a bit better than the purple commander here. We're going for some expensive snooky bees. I am a big fan, certainly. Let's lock onto this guy. You can get some pretty cool shots of these nuclear bombers with their cool little trails. Hold on, there we go. Cinema mode, beautiful. Some people joke about my cinema mode experience. Some people, unironically, enjoy the cinema mode experience. I think it depends what unit, but certainly these going in circles is making me a little bit nauseous, and we'll move away from here. Also, probably more importantly, the blue lace has exploded. As predicted about 5 minutes ago, that geothermal was destined to die. As soon as we saw the capital ships out here, we should have switched into a Prude just to make sure that this exact situation didn't happen. We did not, though, and exactly as foretold by the ancients, aka yours truly, the geothermal led to the total and utter destruction of the blue base here. Tried to send the Nuki Bees in here as well to do some damage. Effectively, 0 damage was done. Capital ships, extremely sturdy. You pretty much need a Pulsar or a Pulsar-esque type of unit to blast those down with any measure of speed. Otherwise, you're basically just looking at sending across or doing a consistent stream of damage for a good long minute. Any commander worth their salt, though, should be putting a whole bunch of res subs underneath these, so glad to see that we do have a couple of those out here. Also to reclaim the metal of those hovercraft tanks, which is always nice right here. So I'm glad to see that the red commander has a bit of an endgame position here. We're trying to build a Juggernaut to send on shore here. Some sort of way to break this front line right now. What is the endgame, though, for the red team? For the blue team. We have these missile boats, and that's great and all. Absolutely turning this strip of land into the D-Day landings if I've ever seen them. Yeah, I'd hate to be a grunt in the Orange Army. There's one strip of land that is most saturated with firepower, and your job is to run directly through it. Impressed these grunts survived at all, actually. Yeah, a couple of these heroes have actually managed to make it through. None of the ones closer to the shoreline, but maybe if you're, you know, born out of the lab on the left-hand side, maybe you'll make it past. This is, yeah, this is a slaughter. Hold on, I want a better shot of this. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one either. There we go, that's the one. Sorry, switching into FPV cam. The trail of grunts. Commander went down over there to the right. Sheldon firing away at it. Tell me that it isn't a pretty cool scene, though. The missiles arcing into the air and raining down on the, raining down on the grunts below. That's beautiful. You know, some people ask me why I think BAR is one of the best RTS. Part of it is the control scheme. A huge part of it is the control scheme. But where else do you get cinematography like this, other than Hollywood productions? Gunships firing away now at some of these hovercraft tanks that are moving through. I'll stay in this camera mode for a little while, actually. We watch the adventures of Mr. Thor and his hovercraft compadres. A little bit awkward to control this. I wish I had this mapped to a thumbstick and use an Xbox controller. I know somebody figured out how to do that a long time ago, but I could never get anybody to tell me how they did it. Yeah, Thor doing some decent work right here, but I think the gunship swarm will eventually be enough. We'll go ahead and switch back into high arc perspective now. Third person perspective. Switch back on our analysis mode here. Feels like in an anime when the protagonist puts his glasses of revealing on and says like, this character has over 5,000 power. How are we supposed to beat him? That's what it feels like toggling this mode on is. We get all the overlays, we get to know what the eco of every player is. Juggernaut is revealed over here, by the way. It fired its berserk beam and yeah, blasted away at least a couple of these. Let's watch these heroes get obliterated. Down they go. About as fast as they ran towards the water, they got blasted right out of it, sent to meet their maker. Juggernaut moving forward here, but it is unaccompanied by any sort of cheaper spam. We do have some salamanders, which is actually quite nice. Better than nothing, certainly, but always best to accompany it with something extremely cheap and extremely swarmy. I would have, I guess, preferred a couple of hovercraft labs pumping out some goons, I believe is the name of the T1 spam hovercraft, the scout hovercraft, quote unquote. We all know it's a spam hovercraft. It has one job. Berserk beam, going to be quite effective at penetrating the shield here. Obviously those arm cannons made of plasma going to be deflected ever so slightly. However, it's not like we couldn't completely drain that shield with just 100 resounding rounds fired out of the quad gun cannons of those black hydras. Whoa, pardon me. My delicious meal would like to be commentated as well. The mukbang stream. Coming to you live. And down go the static defenses. Back to the game. Static defenses have crumbled right here. This Juggernaut is doing a tremendous amount of work. There are no commanders on the front aside from Pansu Ripper, who is trying desperately to hold the line, failing pitifully to hold the line. Only so much that poor purple commander can do against the oncoming swarm of salamanders and juggernauts. Little radar going to be set up over here too. Love to see it. That radar is exclusively for detecting commanders, getting a little too close to the Juggernaut, in case you were curious. I cannot help but feel like these spams of T1 units have effectively been countered by the spam of T3 late game units. Not going to say that the T3 has been, well, would be an efficient choice for dealing with all of this. You can imagine 6 or 7 lightning turrets would do essentially the same job. However, since we already have it here for the blue commander, it definitely feels like the right idea. Our eco-scaling has been fair enough. We have a couple of fusion reactors, a couple of energy converters. See, we're wasting quite a lot of energy here, actually. Marauder will clean up that northern section. That's actually really quite nice. Shutting that down, getting those mechs under your control, frees up a big portion of the map. Pansu Ripper, a little bit of trouble. Yeah, we have the radar tower. Ooh, not good enough, though. Commander goes down in the ensuing thermonuclear explosion, but at the very least manages to shut down that Juggernaut in time to save the front lines from the complete obliteration that Juggernaut would have otherwise brought on. That being said, it was only a matter of time before the grunts stream forth. This Navy has sort of lost its focus here. There we go. Finally getting a good idea at firing into the backline to actually kill the production centers rather than, yeah, just firing blindly at the units over here. What an excellent idea. No, I think it was a vision issue. I don't think those units had any scouting of what actually was going on over there. Another big Marauder run by as well. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Yeah, Scorpion turret's phenomenal. However, they can only do so much. Yeah, cheapo little Scorpion turrets. Quite good, but at the end of the day, they are only T2 static defense. As we all know, T2 static defense loses against T3 units. The majority of them, anyways. Ah, there's the Vanguards I was talking about. There we go. Positioned up on the hillside. Quite epic to look at. Those T3 Spider Boys. Firing away at whatever they can. Lovely, lovely stuff. Yeah, beautiful. Going to certainly be useful against some of this T1 medium armor that's going to be otherwise a little bit difficult to clean up, but also, yeah, useful against the spam of T1 units as well. Obviously going to one-shot grunts or pawns or ticks or anything of that nature, but quite good against bulls and, well, stouts as well. It's nice. The Vanguards in this sort of formation allow you to essentially have static defense at any angle. One of the things that gets tricky about these little hillsides is building static defense up here. You could essentially have the same effect with a couple of rattlesnakes, but putting those rattlesnakes up here is a feat unto itself. How do you do it? Are you going to build a bunch of construction aircraft? Are you going to build a whole bunch of build power and drop it up there or something? Yeah, it becomes very, very tricky. This is the point where I feel like you have to start getting desperate, though. I imagine we're going to invest very heavily into economy at this point. It looks like Chernobyl has got a 5-lab setup, well, 4 T2 labs and 1 T1 lab. Wouldn't mind seeing the T1 lab maybe making shurikens for a potential run-by. You can imagine those shutting down Marauder at the very least. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Gunships need to get back to duty. Oh no, gunships were slacking on the job there for just a second, but I think it's all the time that Juggernaut needed. Oh no, Juggernaut headed directly to the backline. Do we have a commander? We do. We absolutely do. Hexadecimal needs to start moving. If we delay any further, that Juggernaut is going to get close enough to the economy to detonate it here. Its berserk beam reaches out quite a far distance. Oh no. Oh, Hexadecimal is way too slow. The reaction was nowhere near as fast as it needed to be. Now, if we can kill this Juggernaut far enough away, it still won't kill the aphises here, but you can see the explosive radius right there. The big red circle. Oh, we gotta kill it. We gotta kill it. Whoa, just barely we managed to take that thing down. You can see already that aphis was dropped to about 32% HP. My goodness, cutting it very close there, Hexadecimal. Losing the spam lab over here as well. But at the very least, the core parts of the economy do remain intact. It's everything that we need to keep this game up and afloat right here. But there's no denying that this is looking very, very tense. Despite all of that, the economies are fairly similar. The major economies right now, well, the major economy for the red team is a big naval economy. Naval economy is quite a bit less efficient space-wise and just metal per metal-wise, metal to energy-wise, than any land-based economy. So that's why, despite having a fabulous naval economy, it still is virtually nothing compared to a striking land-based economy over here. So that's why Hexadecimal, with a more efficient land-based economy, is able to keep up at this point. A lot of build power over here, dedicating itself to fixing up these aphises. Fair enough, I suppose. If you're, gonna have a whole bunch of aphises, you might as well protect them as best you can. I have a feeling this is gonna be the killing blow, though. Bombers, gunships, fighters galore sending their way across the map here. We even had an angler moving in there. But, what? Drop your bombs. Drop your bombs, please. All right. Bombers just flying past, I guess just kind of scaring things. Won't matter in the end, as, eventually the gunships can do their good work, but that was a bit strange, certainly. But yeah, now fighters are parked right over the air player's base. That sucks, because the fighters will never leave the air lab right here of the purple commander. Oh, honestly, I think we could have just parked him there. Yeah. Nuke launches, okay. Nuke does connect with the orange commander's forward T1 economy. Not the end of the world, but, you know, pretty annoying, I guess. That was a huge blow to the blue team, though. You can see blue team falling significantly in energy production, but also losing about 100 metal production as well. Here's the bombers coming to finish the job over here, and the last of the blue economy goes up in smoke, at least the blue land-based economy. A couple of fusion reactors and an aphis over here as well for the green commander, but all of that is on the back of virtually no energy conversion. Yeah. Oh, wow. Getting very, very mad in chat all of a sudden. a little bit of an APM overflow. If I explain that concept, I'll explain it one more time, just in case anybody out there doesn't understand. The idea being it takes so much APM to control these armies and micro everything and make the bases and all that good stuff that you end up with this situation where when you die and you suddenly have nothing left to micro, you have to overflow that APM somewhere, and oftentimes people will reach for the chat as their method of output. Is it fair? Is it, is it good practice? I don't know. But it is certainly something I'm sure we're all very, very familiar with. Commander walking forward. Oh, Valkyrie, you gotta be so careful here. So careful here. Oh, just barely escapes with his life. 14% left on that commander, but a silver bar to represent the triumph of blasting down one of those juggernauts here. Oh, there we go. We've got the hovercraft spam set up and running right here. Okay. Excellent, excellent stuff. With that economy crumbling right now, though, that definitely puts the blue team on the back foot. You can see falling by about another 200, 250 metal per second. The problem is the blue team just doesn't have a win condition. Like, I'm seeing these different win conditions right here for the red team. We have the juggernauts being pumped out. We have all the spam over here. We have so much economy, but really we're still producing T2 boats, and I think that's just not the right move. We desperately need a gantry pumping out something effective here. We have Shivas coming out of the water. That's nice and all, but I really think those Shivas would be way better suited over on this side of the map. Chernobyl lost the base over here in that nice Marauder run by, or was it Marauder run by? I can't remember what took out Chernobyl's base, frankly speaking. Luckily that commander rebuilt, but it does mean that because that base was destroyed, obviously no further reinforcements will be built here. So a couple of, for instance, seaplane laboratories pumping out some of those bats and flying them into this air wall wouldn't be very efficient, but you wouldn't particularly care. Efficiency wouldn't really play into it. All that you would really need is to thin that air wall by any considerable amount, and you'd be in a decent enough position. I really don't know who takes this, though. Effectively, whoever can come up with the late game solution is going to be in a better spot here. I do like the bombers. Those have been tremendously effective so far, and the juggernauts have been continuing to push forward too. Oh, but it looks like the blue team will resign, losing their will to fight. Certainly one of the, a little bit of a turncoat here. Inspiring his team to resign. That's a bit of an unfortunate turn at the end of the game. But certainly I think we were headed in that direction. With the blue team down in metal, it was only a matter of time before the eco-scaling got out of hand again, and the red team clutched the victory. Absolutely beautiful. Seabisk doing everything, winning the golden cow, but certainly a maximum team effort coming out from the red team in this game of Beyond All Reason. GG to everybody, and I sure hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff too.